Hey everybody, Dave Denton, Independent Outsider here. I'm going to be looking at the screen and not the camera, so hopefully that won't be too distracting because I'm going to read a story for you. Everybody was thinking that we have it made in the post office because we got a day off. I actually get to choose within a few months a day to take off administrative leave because the president just passed away. However, these stories are going to start because we're getting into negotiation season. I believe the negotiations, our contract is officially going to be up in 2020. So here we go with the stories already starting. I'm going to read this to you. It's from the Federal Times, and it was dated yesterday. So it's entitled "Postal Task Force Recommends Changing Employee Pay and Retirement." And I'm telling you right now that this is the typical negotiation move where they're talking about putting a squeeze on us once again. So start this up. A task force led by the Department of the Treasury Secretary and directors of the Office of Personnel Management and Office of Management and Budget has suggested that the United States Postal Service restructure pay and retiree benefits to make the agency more cost effective. They've already cut the labor force almost to the bare bone, and now they're talking about restructuring the pay again, which would probably mean what they typically do is make it more difficult or take longer for the new employees to get the top step. I believe we're at AA and BB. When I started, we had from A to, I don't even remember, maybe N, and they've added a couple of steps at the bottom where you wait or you work for a certain number of weeks to get to each step. And they're talking about restructuring that again. The task force, mandated by an April 2018 executive order, issued a report on increasing the Postal Service financial sustainability December 4th, which advocated for both pricing and management changes to U.S. mail operations. And I wonder if they added the pre-funding the retirement. Well, they always forget that, but the USPS is on an unsustainable financial path, which poses significant financial risk to American taxpayers. That's a bold-faced lie because we don't fund ourselves through taxes, through federal taxation. So that's a lie right there, said Treasury Secretary Stephen T. Mnuchin in a news release. So surprise, surprise, Mnuchin is lying. President Trump tasked us with conducting a thorough evaluation of the United States Postal Service, and today's report contains achievable recommendations that fulfill the president's goal of placing the United States Postal Service on a path to sustainability while protecting taxpayers. Again, they're saying basically that taxes fund the post office. That's not true. From undue financial burdens and providing them with necessary mail services. There's a little picture in the middle, which Senate bill would force Postal Service retirees into Medicare. The Postal Service Reform Act would require annuitants to enroll in Medicare alongside their standard health plans. So it's basically compulsory Medicare. Slumps in first-class mail, coupled with an increase in package shipments driven by an e-commerce, have upset the USPS funding model, according to the task force. Nothing new. That's been going on since 2000, 2001. And its government reorganization plan, the Trump administration proposed preparing the Postal Service for privatization. There we go again. A move which was heavily opposed by both Democrats and Republicans. So, yeah, they're saying slumps in first-class mail, but an increase in packages, which, be honest with you, it hasn't completely leveled out. The thing is that the packages are more labor intensive. So there's that, but there's more, but you can get more letters for bang for your buck kind of thing. For the weight of letters, that's what they're looking at. The weight in letters is more cost effective than the weight of a package. Coupled on top of the fact that they have flat rate shipping. I won't even get into that. The report recommended bringing the USPS employee pay more in line with the broader labor market, placing scrutiny on the bargaining power of employee unions in wage and benefit negotiations, or recommending that employee compensation bargaining power be eliminated. This is a definite power move. Career postal employees are represented by 9 unions and 2 management associations. I only know of 3, so I wonder if they're talking about, management associations. I know of National Association of Postal Supervisors. I love that acronym, NAPS, but I don't know the other one. And the 9 unions? I wonder how they're splitting that up, because there's mail handlers, clerks, and the letter carriers. So I wonder how they're probably talking about rural too. However, unlike other federal workers, the Postal Reorganization Act authorizes collective bargaining on compensation, some benefits, conditions of employment, and postal unions are therefore able to negotiate compensation, benefits, and working conditions. Sorry. I had to roll my eyes on that. Given their federal employee status and the role that the Postal Service plays in the economy, U.S. employees maintain a unique collective bargaining position. They can bargain for wages and benefits as our private sector unions do without the same level of risk that their company will go out of business. That's true and not true. There's always that threat of automation, and there's also the threat of privatization. Now, U.S. mail is not for sale, say federal unions. So they're talking about a rally outside the congressional offices in D.C. protesting privatization, which again is nothing new. The report also called out the retiree health benefit system, and that's what I was talking about before, suggesting that the agency recalculate its required payments to the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund based on the population of employees at or near retirement age. Now, I don't know why that's still an issue, because I remember when that came out where you had to fund 70 years of retirement within 10. That was in 2006, so I don't know if they extended it. The Government Accountability Office predicts that the fund will run out of money by 2030 due to USPS inability to make payments. Again, that's crap. I'd have to look up the numbers once again. Of course, they're looking at management numbers. We have our numbers. probably somewhere in between, probably leaning more towards the union's numbers. The task force also recommends reforming the entire federal government pension system in which USPS employees participate by increasing employee contributions, of course, and converting to a defined contribution system. USPS has a generally positive track record for funding employee pensions when compared with the rest of the government, but the task force recommended reforming the entire system to meet more with private sector trends for ending the accrual of funds and pension accounts. Beyond employee benefit changes, the report also recommends removing cost caps on mail and package delivery, which they've talked about for ever since I've been in, for at least 2 decades when I started. More concretely defining what constitutes part of the United States Postal Service universal service obligation, which ensures a minimal level of service to all Americans, no matter their geographic location. Strengthening the USPS Board of Governors, relying on more private sector involvement in pursuing cost-cutting measures. The problem I have with messing around with the flat rates, I'm wondering if they're going to charge more in less dense areas or in high density areas or urban areas or big cities where they consider it more dangerous to deliver. You get into some sticky situations when you're talking about changing the pay structure. Postal unions contest much of the task force's basis for its recommendations in the first place. Poorly conceived report makes many of its recommendations based on myth and misinformation, and instead of improving mail services would deliver higher prices and less service for the public, says Mark Diamondstein. I didn't even know that was the name of the new American Postal Workers Union president. This report calls for slashing universal service. Recommendations would slow down service, reduce delivery days, and privatize large portions of the public postal service, which again would mess around with the structure, and you would have complaints that Detroit, it's much more expensive to get your mail in Detroit than it is in Lincoln, Nebraska. So most of the report's recommendations, if implemented, would hurt businesses and individuals alike. No institution is better suited for e-commerce revolution than the USPS. That's why some on Wall Street and their enablers on this task force want to position the Postal Service for sale to private interests. The recommendations of the task force are not in the public interest. So this is going to be the fight, and these stories come out every single negotiation time. Anytime there are negotiations, there's a couple of years in which none of these stories come out, and then all of a sudden the bottom's dropping out of the Postal Service. I do sleep sometimes, but apparently the postmaster of the United States Postal Service is cutting sleeping hours. But my whole contention is every single union is going to be on its heels even more than it has been. And every single union pretty much does the same thing, and it sells off its future. A lot of times we get the older guys the guys who have 20, 30 years in, we get a bump in pay. We get another step or a pay increase. Top step guys just got a pay increase coming up. And then you add another step at the top where you have to wait longer to get the higher rates of pay. So, and they mess with the benefits and all of that. They came up with non-career employees a while back. Instead of having part-time flexibles, now they have what's called MHAs, PSEs, and I think TEs for the letter carriers. So we do have a lot of benefits, but every single contract we have to fight tooth and nail, every single one. And there's something called the F1 scheduler that is a nightmare. If there's a reduction in mail, of course they're going to take jobs away. But if there's an increase in mail in a certain area, whether it be flat mail or in a certain part of the operation, there are different sections. There's big parcels. There's stuff called spurs. There's little parcels. There's flats. There's letters. So, for whatever reason, I think it all goes to Dan Issa. That's his name, right? Issa. Hissa. I call him Hissa because he's a snake. It's that California guy. He's the one that started all this crap, but I really pushed it. Daryl Issa? I just call him Hissa. But every single, whether it's federal, whether it's the Teamsters, United Auto Workers, the nurses, teachers, everybody's on their heels. And we have to, Daryl, you're right. I think that's right. Daryl Issa. I think he's still in. He was really pushing it about a while back, like 6-8 years ago. He was on all sorts of talk shows, freaking Bill Maher, and God. I haven't seen him. I don't know if he's retired. But to all of my union brothers and sisters that voted for Trump, I don't think that Obama would have done anything different. I don't think any of the Democrats would do anything different. But he sure as hell being a lot more vocal than these guys when it comes to cutting the days and the work hours. They were talking at one point about what's called a 4-10, 4 days, 10-hour shifts. Some people like that. Some people don't. I don't like it because it cuts into our vacation time, and it severely cuts our overtime. So, although we could get more chance for extra days, which would be nice, but telling you, every single union is going to get hit. And I know people think that the Postal Service has it good, and Postal Service employees do right now get some pretty damn good benefits and really decent pay, especially if you live in the right areas. The thing is, too, we don't really get an area wage. There's very few places that get an area wage. We do get a cost of living increase a couple times a year. But the guy living in Nebraska, he's doing a hell of a lot better than the guy who, like myself, who is living in Long Island or New York City or Boston or a metropolitan area, because the cost of living is that much higher and it really doesn't balance out. So, and when a contract comes out and it's may not be the most desirable thing, but it's workable, maybe, most people are going to vote for it because they're going to vote for it out of sheer terror and fear, especially the guys who are living in the rural areas that have it really, really well. And they're willing to take a cut here or there. So I just saw that and I wanted to mention it because it just irks me every single time. And on top of that, it's Christmas time. You're gonna hit us. You're gonna hit us during Christmas time when everybody's crabby. I'm paying attention, man. I'm paying attention to all these stories. In a Postal Record, Postal Reporter, Federal Times, they're coming, and you're going to see more and more news reports in mainstream media about how the postal workers have it good. I'm surprised that they haven't started seeing, or they haven't started taping the packages being thrown over gates, like delivery drivers throwing TVs over the gate and stuff. That's FedEx, UPS, and the Postal Service, but they always, for whatever reason, it just seems like they highlight us a lot more. So, and for the first time in history, for the first time that I know of since I've worked in the Postal Service in my building, they were towing cars for parking where they're saying that they're not supposed to park. So people were flipping out, and that's going to be a problem. But that, I'm telling you, and I don't think that it'll matter whether you have a Republican or a Democrat in. I think the squeeze is still going to happen. So nothing happened. Nothing got rolled back when Reagan messed with retirees' pensions. Didn't allow the government pension offset. The government pension offset. Things of that nature. Whenever we lose something, we hardly ever, ever, ever get it back. Ever. So, if you have a union, it's in your best interest to get involved or at least light a fire under the union guys' asses and become more informed. Don't be a jailhouse lawyer. I mean, really find out what the rules are within your union. So, anyway, thanks everybody. I just saw that story and I felt like ranting about it. I appreciate everybody coming on. I hope it was at least somewhat informative. And everybody have a good night. Independent Outsider out.